Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC Vegas 56. I'm Paul Chauncey, joined on the line by Cody Saftic, coming off of 1 week break. And we head into 10 straight weeks of action. So you don't have to get crazy on the first card back. There's going to be ample opportunity between UFC and Bellator and PFL. And I imagine Dana White Contender Series is starting back up. So it's a good time to be an MMA bettor. Obviously, lots of opportunity. There's 14 fights on this card. But I would say, look ahead. Look ahead. There's so much opportunity. Don't force anything that you don't love. I only have one bet coming into the card, and it's on the first fight of the night, not even the main event. So we're not even going to talk about it until the end. That's what they call a tease in the biz code. How was your week off? How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, it was good to get a week off, kind of recharge the batteries, get motivated again. Obviously, the run hasn't been very good, so I'm motivated every week to get back on track. And then you see the offering, it's maybe a little hard to get excited for. So as you mentioned, don't got to go balls on the walls to get back in. But Lucas Almeida on a main card, Karine Silva, Poliana Botelho on a main card, Zarrukh Adashev on a main card, Askar Mozharov, Trashkar Mozharov, and he's on the main card. Like, what is going on here? A couple fun fights: Joe Solecki, Damon Jackson, Tony Gravely, Jeff Molina, Aaron Blanchfield, Felice, Herrig, Karolina rematch. The rematch no one asked for, by the way. But those are all prelim fights. So, I don't get what the UFC is doing. It feels to me like they're just throwing a pile of fights out there.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily for us, there is 14 of them. So hopefully we can siphon what we like and what we don't like and then try to make it profitable. Things are always more exciting when you win money. And lately, things haven't been too exciting. So that's up to us to get back in the winning column and make this one a fun one.
Yeah, a bout order is something I don't even pay a lick of attention to anymore. It's just this is 6 hours of content for ESPN Plus. That's the name of the game in the year 2022 for the UFC. But there's 14 fights for us to bet on, and the beauty of the UFC is you get all the props and all the other stuff that you may not get for the other promotions. So let's get right into the action. Main event. We've got Alexander Volkov taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Alexander Volkov is a minus 150 favorite. Rozenstruik can be had for plus 130. This is kind of straightforward. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, low volume, hits like a shit brick house. Volkov, lots of volume. Typically very, very durable. The longer this fight goes, as long as Alexander Volkov doesn't get his head knocked off, he should be able to win this fight on volume. Our buddy Hunter Man was mentioning to me that he had, I don't even know what the odds are on it, but this would seem like a stone cold lock. I don't know what the odds are on it. I don't have it right in front of me, but Volkov decision only props. If you have those types of props available to you at your book, I don't know how Rozenstruik wins a decision here. It probably, this fight, it's a heavyweight fight. It probably gets finished inside the distance, of course. But, tell me, reason with me. How does, you go to Rozenstruik versus Alistair Overeem. What happens there? It's Overeem is literally seconds away from winning that fight. And then his damn lip falls off. It's just Rozenstruik's not winning 5-round decisions. I wish this wasn't actually a main event. I wish this was a 3-round co-main event type of situation, because this fight goes 5 rounds. Alexander Volkov wins. Volkov could finish him inside the distance, or Rozenstruik could absolutely blast him. I'm going to go with Volkov here. Minus 150 doesn't even seem all that bad. I'm not sure again, I don't know what that decision only prop is, but if it's anywhere close to minus 200, that seems like a stone cold lock. You may end up just pushing on it, but yeah, that's, I really struggle to see how Jairzinho wins a decision against Alexander Volkov. So yeah, Volkov for me, minus 150. I don't even mind it, to be perfectly honest. Haven't bet it, wanted to talk to you first. What's your take here?
Yeah, it's just another one of these dangerous main events to come back to, because what do we like avoiding if possible? Heavyweights with giant amounts of power. So even though I agree with everything you're saying about Alexander Volkov, he's the longer, rangier guy, way better output, stay to the outside, and chip away at him. We've seen it been done before. We'll probably see it do it again. It's like now the prospect here is betting against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who has a tremendous amount of power and, of course, is fighting in the small little apex. So like his chances are going to be there to land something. Volkov has stood a little upright at times. He has got clipped at times. And even Volkov's last fight against Tom Aspinall does get finished on the ground, but as not as if his striking looked particularly good. Aspinall was finding a home for that right hand. Jairzinho Rozenstruik could, in theory, do the exact same thing. But yeah, I'm going to actually go back to your point about why did they book Rozenstruik in a 5-round main event again. I completely agree, because we've actually seen kind of a similar, what I think will be a similar matchup when he fought Cyril Gane. And it was a terrible main event, which is 5 rounds, and it was in the apex. So like the small cage theory was out the window there. You have Rozenstruik following him around for 25 minutes. It's what he does. He's super low output. Could knock you out. Absolutely could knock you out. But you got to let your hands go in order to land that clean knockout blow, and that's just something he doesn't do. Volkov, meanwhile, has good kick game, but against Tom Aspinall, you can't use the kick game because you're worried about getting taken down. Versus Marcin Tybura, his numbers don't look great, but Tybura shot, I think it was like 12 takedown attempts. Got 0 of them, but spent a lot of time clinched up with him up against the cage. In fights where you stand in the open field, yeah, he just chips away, 100 plus strikes. Even in the fights that he's finishing inside the distance, the Alistair Overeem fight, the Walt Harris fight, he is on pace to landing over 100 significant strikes, but the opponent topples over. Now, I think Rozenstruik is not going to topple over. He's a tough guy. I do think he goes the 25 minutes of Volkov's victorious. He'll stay to the outside, fight a similar game plan to what Cyril Gane did, just chip away and try to be long. But, what do you do with this? Do you top ticket and try to hedge out? That is my style. But outside of that, do you have faith in a main event where it's 25 minutes, Volkov's just going to make one slip up? That is the thing with Rozenstruik. He fights terrible game plans, but he does capitalize on guys when they make that one slip up. Obviously, the Overeem fight where he's down 4 rounds, probably down 3 rounds at the very least, and then clips him late. Even the Junior Dos Santos fight where he drops the first round and then clips him. There's fights where he just doesn't do anything, lands that big kill shot, right? So, it's certainly a possibility, but I just think that the volume from Volkov will be beneficial to him. So I'm going to agree with all your points. I got Volkov by decision. I got the over 3.5. But the way my luck's been going lately, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rozenstruik come out there and land that touch of death on him.
100%. All right, we move to the co-main event. We got Movsar Evloev taking on Dynamite Dan Ige. Minus 380 for Evloev, plus 290 for Ige. I mean, this is a big price to pay for Movsar Evloev. I think he's awesome. He's obviously 15-0. This fight to go to decision, number is super gacked to the over. Over 2.5 is minus 400. Dynamite Dan, super durable. He can be taken down. He can be controlled. Movsar probably a little bit better everywhere than Dynamite Dan, but we're having to pay the price tag of minus 380. I think he's going to be pretty close to the top of your parlays this week. I don't know how I get to this one. I'm going to look up the Movsar by decision prop in a second here. Maybe that's how I go about it. But Movsar is my pick. Don't love the money line. What about you?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, really, for the most part. I was thinking initially, damn, Dan Ige has got a terrible manager. Oh, wait, he's got the best manager in the game. Aziz. Yeah, but they're actually boys. They're buddies. Why is he not trying to get him some better matchups? The kid just needs a shot of confidence. He's ultra skilled, right? They say down in Las Vegas, he's one of the hardest working guys in the gym. He's got wicked fast hands, decent in boxing, decent pop in his hands. Like you said, he's just cast iron. Guy's got big old heart for days. I think he was a state wrestling champion in Hawaii. Not that means anything. A little bit of collegiate wrestling. The guy knows how to wrestle. I believe he just got promoted to a BJJ black belt as well. He's got everything going for him. He just needs that little bit of confidence. And the matchmaking just hasn't been there. He's taken the likes of Edson Barbosa, Calvin Cater, Chang Sung Jung, Josh Emmett. He just needs to maybe reel back, beat a couple non-contenders, work your way back up, get going again. But no, it's just tough matchup after tough matchup. And I got a feel for him, right? Movsar Evloev is 15-0. The reason why this is the co-main event is not because of you. It's because of him. The UFC's trying to build this guy up. He looks like he's got the goods, and it's coming at the expense of Ige. But one's got to wonder, why does he keep doing this to himself? I actually agree with you in that I thought Dan Ige would be a live underdog in the spot. I didn't think that the odds necessarily made sense. It's just inflated too big on Movsar Evloev because of the 15-0. People like undefeated, people like Russians, people like people that are going to go out there and grind on you. And Movsar Evloev is kind of the total package in that regard. So yeah, he's a way sexier pick than Dan Ige, who's lost 3 of his last 4 fights and hasn't really been able to get over the hump against elite competition. Like I get all that, but it's the particular style clash. When you look at Evloev and who's he's fought, Mike Grundy, right? Mike Grundy put him in a whole bunch of tight chokes in the first round, but then Grundy was able to gas out. Nick Lentz almost choked him out with a topside guillotine in the first round. And then I wouldn't say gas out, but it became an absolute war down the stretch. Now, I don't know who scored the fight for Nick Lentz, but the fact is somebody did. It was a much closer fight than the minus 700 on Evloev that night would have suggested. And then the Hakeem Dawodu fight, the first 2 rounds, he just takes him down, takes his back. It's easy work, right? Mm-hmm. In the third round, he gets dropped. He gets a knockdown scored against him, eats some pretty big shots. Looked like he was tiring a little bit. And then, of course, pulled out of that Ilia Topuria fight after that. So what Dan Ige brings to the table is that Dan Ige is, in theory, a good striker, maybe not of the caliber of Hakeem Dawodu, but he's got fast hands and he's got explosive power, right? He could clip you. He could hurt you. He's got good cardio. If you're tiring against Dawodu, then this guy's going to push a pace. Whereas Dawodu couldn't stuff any of the takedowns. One would figure that there would probably be a little more success from Dan Ige. Dan Ige's grappling is also a lot better, right? If you're getting caught in submission attempts by Mike Grundy and Nick Lentz, and yes, he did escape both of them, but the submission attempts are there. They are present. Then why couldn't Dan Ige, a fine grappler, go out there and snatch something up? But it all comes down to the Chang Sung Jung fight. Chang Sung Jung's not a wrestler. He had his way with Dan Ige.
That's where
so easily, effortless with the takedowns. And I think he recorded him for 3 takedowns, 5. He took him down in every round, right? Even in the 5th round, he doesn't need a takedown. He just stuffs Ige's takedown and gets on top of him. Yep. Takes his back in the first 2, takes his back in the 4th, takes his back in the 5th. Like, oh no. And Movsar Evloev loves taking the back. So honestly, that fight in itself is just such a blueprint path to victory for Evloev, who can strike, but why bother? Put a little pressure on him, come forward, let your hands go long enough to get him to put a high guard up, and then shoot that blast double leg. Take him down, take the back, rinse and repeat, 2 of the 3 rounds. And if you're up 2 going into the 3rd, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's not going to knock you out in the 3rd, right? He's not that big of a power puncher. He's good. He's explosive. But, being down 2 for Ige would be really bad going into the 3rd. We see it for him all the time. So, I think Evloev goes out there and gives him an old-fashioned grinding. And then last but not least with Movsar Evloev is he's fought largely in the UFC at 145 pounds. His fight with Nick Lentz was actually a catch weight of 150. Nick Lentz requested the 150. So, he can fight big enough. Whereas I always felt with Dan Ige, he just seems like a tad bit undersized at 45. Like he's 5'7". He's not like the height's the biggest thing out there, but guys that are bigger than him that can wear on him have mostly had the most success. And you're seeing that with better wrestlers like Chang Sung Jung or Josh Emmett, which is a better wrestler. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're more physical. I think that's what you're going to end up getting out of Evloev. I don't love the price. No. But I got Evloev. And of course, you can improve that price much better by chasing the decision. You think he's going to choke out Dan Ige? No. You think he's going to knock out Dan Ige? No. So you would try to chase that by going Evloev by decision, or fight goes the distance.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take – I just saw there's a minus 150 Evloev by decision available to me.
That's not bad. Yeah.
I mean, 60% probability. I think Evloev decision is probably more like a 70% probability. It's minus 200 at a whole bunch of other spots. So I expect that number to climb. I'm going to probably hop on it once we get off of this show. All right, moving on down, we got Mike Trizano taking on Lucas Almeida. Mike Trizano, a minus 225 favorite. Almeida can be had for plus 185. What's your take here, buddy?
I don't love this fight. Like, Mike Trizano should just walk right through him. There's a number of things going for Mike Trizano, but I just get like a bad gut feeling on it in that he's a kind of a low volume guy. And I need a little more out of him. You look at his run so far. Here's somebody who has won the Ultimate Fighter. He won like season 27 of the Ultimate Fighter, right? He's picked up a couple decent victories in the UFC. Luis Pena, Ludovic Klein. This is be his 5th UFC fight. He is a 145-pound fighter. He's got all of that stuff going for him. He's got the experience. He's fought in the tougher level competition. He's been in there, right? Even just winning tough, the whole experience. That's all good stuff for him. Lucas Almeida, meanwhile, he's kind of a wild card. have trouble getting a great read on him. I'll tell you why. If you look at his 2 fights prior to getting on the Contender Series, he TKOs Bruno Tavares in the 5th round, right? His cardio looks good. Put some pressure on him, takes him out in the 5th. It's a nice performance. Then follow-up fight, subsequent one against Nico Kokuchio, right? He knocks him out with a flying knee in the 3rd round. Again, cardio largely carries over. This Daniel Zeluber fight on the Contender Series, he comes at him hard, Almeida does, in the 1st round. Like, he is aggressive. He's in his face. He launches this right hand over the top over and over, spamming the right hand, kicks for days. And Paul Felder's like admiring him. And he's like, this guy can keep it up for rounds. Like, watch. In the 3rd round, he'll be just like in the 1st. Only that proved to be a lie. In the 2nd round, he got taken down and spent largely the entire round off of his back with nothing to offer. And then the 3rd round, he was tired. He was lethargic. Is that because he's fighting in Las Vegas for the first time? Is that because Dana White's there? Is that because he knows there's a contract on the line? There's any number of factors that maybe was an adrenaline dump, but his cardio didn't hold up in the one time that he really needed to. And so you see him jump back to the regional scene against Italo Trindade. And it's not a very good fight either. Like, his striking looks pretty good for the first 30 seconds. Trindade grabs a hold of him, presses him up against the cage. They spend 90 seconds up against the cage, and then he just grabs a guillotine choke. So a lot of what you do see is some early finishes. You do see the 5th round finish, the 3rd round finish. It would suggest that he's got good cardio. It would suggest he can carry that power to the later rounds. But again, the one real meaningful fight of his career, which was on the Contender Series, he came up short. And I think cardio was kind of what failed him. So I think by the volume, again, on the Contender Series, he lands like 90 significant strikes, end up losing a unanimous decision. I think by the volume, he'd probably go out there and put superior volume up on Trizano. But Trizano's biggest issue so far in the UFC hasn't been his striking, it's been his takedown defense. He gets taken down all the time, and then they just grind away time on him. He did have a striker versus striker battle against Hakeem Dawodu, but Hakeem showed up in career best shape, lands like 141 significant strikes, just looked way, 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 way better. And of course, he's a sharp, good surgical tactician on the feet. So I give him a pass on that one. I think Almeida might win the 1st round. You're going to get a better price on Trizano after the 1st. And then I think that veteranship, all of that is gonna play dividends. He should be able to work his way back into the 2nd, win the 2nd, win the 3rd, scoop a decision, or maybe a late finish. The last thing I want to throw out there is this is weird for Lucas Almeida, right? So you look at his last fight, right? 155. His fight on the Contender Series, 155. The fight prior, 55. The fight prior to that, 170. No, it was 55, and the one before that was 170, right? So his last 5 fights have been at 155 pounds. He's fought as high as 170 pounds, and yet he's coming into this fight at 145 pounds on like a relatively short notice. So either one or two things are going to happen. Either A, that's where he should have been all along, and he's going to be the man. Or B, his cardio is going to let up on him. He's going to cut the extra 10 pounds. He's going to try to push a pace. He's going to feel that exact same shock that he did the first time when he fought in the Apex. And Trizano's veteranship will take over. So I do have Mike Trizano, but this is not a fight I'm looking to go heavy on by no means.
Yeah, I'm pretty worried about just like looking at the strike numbers here. The fact that it's, minus 195 to the over. And if I think even potentially that Lucas Almeida is going to out-volume Mike Trizano, that's a real dicey situation I don't think I'm going to be a part of. I'll wait until weigh-ins for the purposes of the show. I'll say Trizano right now, but I'm not too sure, to be perfectly honest.
Check for the mullet, because against Ludovic Klein, he rocked one hell of a Kentucky waterfall, and he went out and he performed, right? And then in his very next fight, it's like he come in with like a crew cut. It's like, ooh, he got his ass kicked by Hakeem Dawodu. He did not look in it whatsoever. So let's see what his style, let's see what his jam and his flow's like, and then maybe we'll take it from there.
I like it. All right, moving on down, we've got Karine Silva taking on Poliana Botelho. Karine Silva minus 120, Botelho plus 100. What's your take here, bud?
Yeah, well, I just can't bet Botelho, even if I want to, even if I was favoring her ever so slightly. Like, it's just, you're just looking to get burned. You're looking to get someone to shit in your apple pie. This is an even money fight, so it's not like there's huge expectations on either side. But again, keep in mind, she's had most of her success at 115 pounds in the UFC, right? She got the win over Pro Gonzalez, Siri Kondo, and she moves up against Laura Mueller. It's a low-level win, but that's her debut at 125, and it's low level. I think against Jillian Robertson, physically, she's just not on Robertson's level. Like, Robertson's very limited in her approach and what she does, and it's very effective against Poliana Botelho just because she's bigger, she's stronger. Her grappling is that much more effective because of the size discrepancy and the strength. The jiu-jitsu is that much more effective, all of that. And so Jillian Robertson wins. And then you get this Luana Karolina fight. So this one's super interesting because in the first round, Botelho goes out there, presses her up against the cage, hits a nice little takedown, moves straight to mount, dominates in the first round. Good times. In the second round, she cannot get the fight to the ground. She's trying to press her up against the cage, but she's already starting to fatigue. She's already starting to wear. And now is when you're seeing the size discrepancy. The bigger, taller fighter is going to have the advantage the longer the fight goes. So she can't get her to the ground in the second. She loses the second. It's 1-1 going to the third. Who wants it more? And Luana Karolina, of all people, ends up, Botelho gets a takedown, and then immediately is reversed. Immediately is reversed, and Luana Karolina ends up on top, ends up taking her back, ends up landing a bunch of ground and pound, and wins the fight. So what part of her game do we like? Her striking, it's one and done. There's no combinations. There's no great footwork. She'll throw maybe a right hand. She'll throw maybe the jab. She'll maybe throw a singular kick, but she's not tying anything together. The wrestling looked okay in the first round, but it's not something that she can sustain the longer the fight goes. Her size, a little bit undersized, a little bit under strength. Her jiu-jitsu, really not all that good when you consider she had her mounted in the first round and could do nothing with it. And in the third round, she's getting reversed that easily and almost getting submitted with a rear naked choke. It's just all bad news to me. When I look at Karine Silva, meanwhile, she's still only 28, and I think that's where I'm going to give her a pass. Is like the beginning of her career maybe looks a little bit lackluster. She goes over to Russia. She got knee barred in under a minute versus Mokhtarian. She's had a couple up and down moments. She's on a roll right now for sure, right? So I go back to this Qin Yu Yan fight, which is the contender series, of course, right? And Yan, I don't know what they're feeding her in China, but holy shit, Paul, this girl is jacked. This girl is ripped up, jacked, built like a damn tree stump, and is going to be some serious problems for some people. But Karine Silva was like super composed. Her striking was good. She was landing and timing some really good knees up the middle, landing to the body. When she would get taken down, she'd immediately threaten. She would look to get back up. She was making it work. She was creating these scrambles. Was she getting hustled up? She lost the first round, but at no point is she quitting. Second round, cardio checks up. She's still going, and then ends up catching her in a guillotine choke and submitting her, right? So at the time, it was like, woof, that was a greaser. Glad I got that one alive. But really, in hindsight, she had everything that you needed from her. Her striking looked good. It looked better than Poliana Botelho's. Her wrestling looked good. The problem is that she's shooting a double leg on a Greek pillar, and it ain't moving. It ain't going nowhere, right? Hard to hit a brick wall. Against Botelho, that same double leg, I think she'll shoot right through her. So she could win the striking exchanges. She could win the wrestling exchanges. And of course, her grappling seems more than fine to just spend time on top, which is what other people have had success against Botelho in the past. So she's 28. That was the best I thought she looked last time out, just because of the type of opponent and the fact that she just never gave up on herself and kept going and stayed the course, stuck to the game plan, which is excellent. And I do expect to see some improvements out of her. Whereas for my money's worth, Botelho's a little bit undersized and just not my cup of tea. So I would look to avoid her. I would look to go with the killer Karine Silva side.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And like just to add on to Marina Makatina, that fight was at 135. And like she's been fighting at like 155 recently, so she was obviously pretty outsized.
She's like a six-time Sambo. She's like a six-time Sambo world champion or something. So
I wouldn't. I wouldn't get too excited about that. I'll
add one more point on that actually, but it's what you're saying is that not only that, but her last two losses, Dion Barbos was at 135 and Marina was at 135, right? This winning streak that she's at right now is all at 125. And of course she's taking on Poliana Botelho, who used to fight at 115. So the one counter argument I could see somebody making to me is they'll say, well, listen, she used to fight at 115 too. The loss to Marina Moroz is at 115, but that's 8 years ago. She's 20 then. Right? She's 28 now. She's filled in. She's fought as high as 35 and has settled in nicely in a 5-fight winning streak at flyweight where she should be. Whereas Botelho didn't really have a ton of success at 115, moved up to 125, has a win over Lauren Mueller. Check out how she's doing these days. And then outside of that does not look good in her other two flyweight fights. Like size and strength is all going to be a factor here. And I would say that Karine Silva has those two factors. So, and it's actually like not the world's worst price tag. It's minus 120. Again, it's women's MMA and all this and that, but like skill, size, all that. Wait to weigh-ins if you want. It seems like Silva's going to have a crack at it.
Whatever happened to Lauren Mueller?
Lauren Mueller got released, and then she's just she fights on the regional scene now, and it just hasn't gone very well. To bring up her exact record, because Okay, I think she picked up maybe a victory. She's
Oh,
5-4 now. But yeah. I don't know why it's not loading. Not even the website wants to talk about Laura Mueller.
That's fair.
No, that's a mistake. So yeah, she beat Shayna Dobson because of course why not? And then she lost to Yanan Wu, and then she lost to Poliana Botelho, and then she lost to JJ Aldrich, and then they released her. And then she fought a 3-2 girl on Invicta, and she lost that too. And that was the end. She's on a 4-fight losing streak. Started off her career 5-0. Now she's on a 4-fight losing streak. Poliana Botelho, she can win those kind of fights, right? But not much beyond that. I would say her upside in the division's not very exciting. Whereas Karine Silva, we'll see what happens here, but she could be okay. Like, she could be a legitimate prospect, somebody that's going to factor in the division for a few more fights down the road.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. All right, we've got Ode Osbourne taking on Zarrukh Adashev, -180 Osbourne, +155 Adashev. Adashev fought 4-3, obviously a decent kickboxer, but I don't think his ground game's really been tested all that much. Not saying that Ode Osbourne is going to test that all that much either. Tricky spot. I thought Ode looked all right last time out against CJ Vergara, and I think Vergara is a pretty a relatively underrated guy who we thought was going to be complete, bunk, but he's shown that he's, especially in the Kletson Rodriguez fight last time out, that he's no scrub whatsoever. I think Ode is the rightful favorite here. I don't know if I'm going to get to it from a betting perspective, but I just think Zarrukh seems very, very one-dimensional, and I don't really want to get involved in that. What's your take here?
Yeah, he does seem one-dimensional, but is Ode Osbourne's wrestling all that good?
Probably
he
not.
struggled mightily to get Vergara down, and that's kind of one thing that slightly makes me a little bit nervous. The other thing, too, is that he's got an 8-inch reach advantage over Adashev, 73 inches versus 65. But he doesn't fight long. He doesn't fight to the outside. He steps in with the left hand, and it really kills the pocket for the most part. He's killing that distance in between them, and he's allowing his opponents to get off and counter. When you look at the Vergara fight, the first round, it's not even as if he looks that good. It's that he's got the volume. He's outlanding them. He's landing in combinations. His footwork looks pretty good. He's got a natural speed advantage, and he does outstrike him. In the second round, things start tightening up. He actually, by the numbers, got outstruck by Vergara 28-26 in the second round, but I thought he landed the better strikes. Of course, the left hand's on his play. He's landing some decent enough kicks. He's getting stuffed on the takedowns, but I mean, he's working through it. And then in the third round, he's gassed. He got outstruck 41-19 in the third. Lost the third round on everybody's scorecards, but he had banked the first two. But you could see it in progress. He started off awesome. Second round, not so good, but did win it. And then the third round, he's tired and he's trying to hold on. That becomes a problem for Ode Osbourne because it's kind of a pattern with him, right? Since he's dropped down to 125 pounds, everything's kind of been quick work. His fight on Contender Series against Armando Villarreal, a first-round armbar. His debut against Brian Kelleher, he got subbed by a first-round guillotine. His fight with Jerome Rivera, he knocked him out in 26 seconds. His fight with Manel Kopp, he started really good against Manel Kopp, who's a bit of a slow starter, and then got starched with the flying knee. But again, you're seeing he starts off well. The longer the fight goes, he's slowing down, not so great. That was the case with Vergara, who by the numbers outstruck him 93-79 in that fight. But he was able to bank the first two rounds. That's what makes me nervous against Adashev. He is one-dimensional, but the guy would like to strike. And if you want to just maybe, I don't know, 2 fights ago against Sumaderji, he didn't throw any strikes. He stared at him. He looked like absolute crap. Don't ever bet on this guy ever again. But, well, not that I bet him on that time, but just not somebody you want to back going forward. But against Ryan Benoit, his volume looked a lot better. He had a nice power kick to the body. Again, he wasn't throwing much combination, but he was sitting there, planting his feet, and waiting for Ryan Benoit to come after him and be aggressive. Ode Osbourne likes to also be aggressive. He also stands naturally as a southpaw, so Adashev should have opportunities to chew up the lead leg if need be, wait for him to come in and try to land those hands. He, too, looked tired in the third round against Ryan Benoit. Not a great spot to be in. He also got dropped by Ryan Benoit. Not a great spot to be in.
Ew.
So, I don't know how you could have a ton of confidence either side. I'd like to say the speed, the length, the agility, and the reach advantage from Ode Osbourne is going to allow him to get the victory. But I do see Adashev being maybe like a little more refined, a little more polished as a kickboxer. So it'd be nice to see Ode either not gas out or try to get a hold of him and take him down. But the fact that he just fought 3 rounds, Ode Osbourne, that should be good for the cardio. That should give you a little bit of faith. That's like, okay, I can do it if I need to. Hopefully he comes into this fight in better shape, more experience, ready to go. But I think it's going to play out similar to his last fight, where he'll just win the first 2 rounds and then try to survive the third. So I will take Ode Osbourne. I don't love the price tag. And again, on a 14-fight card, this might not be one of the ones that I'm really looking to go heavy into, because Adashev's got a shit 4-3 record, of course, but he probably not as bad as that's looking like, and you're not getting the greatest value out of it as a result.
It makes sense to me. I imagine, it's going to be interesting, but I imagine that this fight here probably isn't going to have all of your attention either. Alonzo Menifield takes on Askar Mozharov. -160 Menifield, +140 Mozharov. I mean, this Mozharov guy has he had like a USADA suspension before he even got into the UFC. He's clearly got a neck tat. There's been talk about his record being a little funky. Not every single website has his record a little bit differently. He refers to himself as the Ukrainian Conor McGregor. He says that fans call him that too. I have my doubts about that. I mean, the under in this fight is gassed. Under 1.5 is gassed all the way to -195. Mozharov seems like a potent finisher. Menifield's gas tank is absolutely abysmal, but he does hit hard. I mean, this is a volatility fight all the way around. I struggle not to pick Alonzo Menifield, but I'm not going to lie, I don't know enough about Askar here. What's your take?
Well, Trashcar Mozharov, never thought this guy would make it to the UFC in a million years. I think it really does speak to how low quality the product is now, that guys are able to just jump in like this. Guys that have not really had the most success at a high level are able to jump in like this. But he may be, I know he's the first, but I'm going to say he's going to be probably the last, unless this is a new trend for the UFC. But he's coming off a BYB bare knuckle boxing match to the UFC. So to put things into perspective, he was fighting in a little tiny pizza-shaped triangle on a promotion that's run by Dada 5000 in somebody's backyard to a UFC fight.
8-second knockout.
Super interesting. Yeah, you know what's weird about this 8-second knockout too is you click on this event.
5-16.
Yeah, and then you click on the event, and it's supposed to be headlined by Haratonov versus James McSweeney, right? And then yet at the bottom it says McSweeney compensation disagreement canceled bout. So McSweeney was basically like, oh, they're not going to pay me, doesn't fight. The event has no location, only that it was in the United States. No, that it's in Russia. I think it's saying it's in Russia.
This guy that he lost this guy that he beat too. Not only did he get knocked out by him, he went on to go get himself knocked out 1, 2, 3, 4 more times in the year 2021. Good for you, Victor Jones.
And then you look at the poster. Victor Jones is not even on the poster. Yeah. Well,
he looks jacked in his picture. I'll give him that. I mean, he's a professional fighter.
He's definitely jacked. Yeah, he's definitely jacked. I mean, you look at the tricep or the traps on him. It's like, Jesus, man, this guy probably was on something at some point. I'm sure he's not anymore, but don't be surprised if he was to piss hot after his debut. But so anyways, let's just look at all the massive red flags that are on him. Okay, so we talked about the fact that he's coming from a BYB event that apparently happened in Russia, which it's the only fight that apparently was on the card, and the Victor Jones guy wasn't even advertised to be on the show. It smells really suspicious. Now look at his last few fights, okay? That was the 8-second knockout. His MMA fights, 33-second knockout. The one before, 27-second knockout. The one before, 234. The one before, 257. The one before, first round. Okay, sweet. Here's the last time he went past the first round was August 4th, 2019. Okay, so it's 3 years ago, right? Is the last time he went past the first round. And he loses that fight when he's choked out in the second round. That fight is the only time he's been to the second round since 2015. Since 2015, he's been to the second round one time. He lost that fight. So safe to say his cardio's not very good. He comes in, he brings heat, he tries to melt his opponents. But I knew I recognized this guy's name. I'm like, where do I recognize this guy's name from? And then it dawned on me, and I'm like, that's right. I watched him on a Full Metal Dojo show in 2016, okay, where he fights this Marcello Tenorio at a catch weight of 187 pounds. He got armbarred in 42 seconds, right? He then fought 21 days later against Luke Jumeau at 170 pounds. and got choked out in the first round.
So he's
almost all of his losses are in the first round. The majority of them are by submission. He cannot grapple. He's undersized. He juices up. He's now super jacked and full of tats and looks like a menacing guy, but his wins are 0-0, 0-0, 1-7, 6-8, 0-1, 0-3, 1-3. Yeah, okay.
He's a fraud. He's a fraud.
Total fraud. The thing is they've matched him up with another fellow fraud. But the difference
There's
between
levels
him and
of
Alonzo
fraud,
Menifield,
though. If you're a fraud on the
exactly.
you're a fraud at the UFC level versus being a fraud in these bunk promotions that he's a fraud in. Like, that's a big difference. Like, I'm surprised that Alonzo's only minus 160 here. Like, it almost seems too good to be true.
Dude, I think it's the same thing. I think it is too good to be true. I think Menifield could win this fight if you got to mind your P's and Q's for the first 3 minutes, right? But he can knock him out standing, no doubt about it. He can take him down and he can smash him, right? He can do pretty much all these different things that he would like to. The easiest path to victory is just press him up against the cage, take this guy down, smash, 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 easy money, right? If you look at Alonzo Menifield versus Willie Knight, right? He's trying to take Willie Knight down. The problem is Thick Willie,
is so
right?
Thick.
Weighed 205 on that night. Yeah, he fought at 251 pounds in his last fight, Thick Willie. He's gigantic. He's very, very strong. And the way he's built, which is like super low center of gravity, taking him down is just not happening, right? So he tried to grind on him. It just wasn't happening, right? Ed Herman wrestled collegiately. He's out of Portland, Oregon. He was he's a grindy BJJ black belt. Hard to grind on those guys. Alvin St. Preux was a former title challenger. Devin Clark was a former junior college national wrestling champion. Hard to grind on a lot of these guys. This is not the case. There's one cincher up because I just want to smash this minus 160 line. There's one cincher up. Everybody can watch it. You'll see exactly what I mean. Askar Mozharov fought at Titan FC 58 versus Christian Torres. It's his last loss on paper. It's his last loss, okay? Comes out of the fight. He's a Taekwondo black belt, so he's looking to land some flashy kicks, this and that. Christian Torres, who's from Paraguay and is currently 15-12, I believe, runs in, grabs a hold of the guy, trips him up to the ground, super easy money takedown, sets up in guard, light ground and pound. He chops him down with a partial elbow, okay? They hold. He chops him down with a second partial elbow. The guy's head splits with a little bit of blood. He looks at the ref, waves to the ref, and taps out. He absolutely quits 2.5 minutes into the very first round when the very first sign of adversity faced him. The very first significant strike that landed, the very first time he felt blood, he looked at the ref and said, help me, and tapped out. Right. And then when he fights dudes in the professional pancration championship, he bum rushes them and smokes them out of there in 20 seconds. You know why? Because guys that are afraid, they'll just go balls to the walls and either they'll clip you with something in the first minute. Bob Sapp's a great example. Bob Sapp is so goddamn scared in there that he's like, I'm just going to bum rush this dude for a good 45 seconds. And if he goes down, great. If he doesn't go down, I'm going down. That's the plan. That's the move. This is what he's going to do against Alonzo Menifield. You hammer the under 1.5 on this. You hammer the fight, don't go with the distance. And I think you hammer this minus 160 Menifield. The problem is that Menifield has been such an apple pie shitter in the past that it's like, shame on, fool me once, fool me twice. Like, you're tired of hearing the same old stuff. Why would you bet on this guy? Why would you bank on this guy? It's like, just do the research on Askar and you'll see everything I'm telling you is true, right? You'll see this guy lacks the heart. You'll see this guy lacks the real sheer size. And Alonzo Menifield, he's green in the sense that he got a late start into MMA. He's learning on the job. And by the way, they've given him some pretty tough competitors, right? Can't beat the tough guys. Get that. This should be different. And if you needed like one last thing to perhaps persuade you in that direction, is that Alonzo Menifield was supposed to fight Nick Negamarianu on this card. Nick Negamarianu bails out, and that's why you're getting Askar short notice. They just need a warm body to throw in there. He's got a neck tat. People love neck tats. He's super jacked. He's going to come out. He's going to bring the heat for 2 minutes. And the first time he himself gets hit, he's going to turtle up, I think. So that's where I sit on this one. I don't think it's a terrible price tag. I'd love to put it up like high up on the ticket. But there's a good chance I just need to get back to trusting my gut. And that's what my gut is telling me. But it's Menifield, right? You said it best yourself. So hopefully 4-7 A's got this guy on point.
Even if his opponent doesn't really go deep into fights usually. It's like Menifield's gas tank is like five to 7 minutes, and it gets real dicey after that. This fight's probably done before we get to that, but if you're holding a Menifield ticket and you get outside of 7 minutes, it's 50-50 at that point. He looks pretty awful. All right, moving on down, we've got the rematch nobody asked for. Felice Herrig takes on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Minus 120 Felice, plus 100 Karolina. Karolina won their first fight. There were no takedowns. She basically just won on volume. It was like 120 to like 80 in significant strikes. Felice has a OnlyFans, a foot fetish OnlyFans, Cody. I've been doing my research, and not that I'm into that kind of thing, like that deep, but like I did my research on it, and Karolina got some enhancements as well. So there's lots of narratives going on here. Both of these girls seem absolutely washed. They're both around my age. And I know that, like, athletically, I'm pretty washed at this point. So I'm not sure what to really expect from either one of them. But based on the fact that it's, she's the slight underdog here. Felice wasn't able to take her down in their first matchup. They both seem kind of maybe focused on the after-career life at this point. I'll go with Karolina, but I don't know if I can put my hard-earned dollars on Karolina Kowalkiewicz in the year 2022. What's your take here?
Yeah, it's strange times. Do you know what the opener was? Like, is money pouring in on Felice? Like, I'm scratching my head about why she's the favorite. We're being 100% honest.
So it was like plus 100. So it was like basically it's like flipped. So it was like the exact opposite. It hasn't moved much. No, it was like -1. It was plus 100, minus 120. And then it's flipped to the other side. So, like, people are pretty torn on this fight all around.
Yeah, here's what I'm not understanding, if, like, we're being perfectly honest with you, is that both girls combined for 8 straight losses. Yep. So, like you said, they both probably seem washed. You got a 5-fight losing streak from Karolina. They never allow people to stay around that long. You got a 3-fight losing streak from Felice Herrig. Very strange. But the last time Karolina won a fight was Felice. And Felice hasn't fought since then, right? So very strange. Now, people will tell you, well, the reason why Karolina is the underdog now is the long losing streak. It's like, well, that's interesting because Jessica Andrade is former world champion. I don't think anybody's going to falter for that one. And, Michelle Waterson's a former title challenger. I don't really falter all much for that one. Alexa Grasso is currently top 5 in the division. Very exciting prospect. Yajinan, probably another top 7 prospect, legitimate fighter in the division. Jessica Panay fight was some super bum stuff. So maybe that's why people are down on her. Like, I know the results haven't been there, but here's my argument. One girl's been actively competing against some of the best girls in the world, and the other one hasn't been doing anything. So I'm not sure that losses affect me in my opinion of, oh, you're a worse fighter because of the losses. Like, at least she's been getting round time. At least she's been going in there and competing. At least she's been getting actual training camps in. All that, it means something as far as I'm concerned, right? But Felice Herrig's made a career. Oh, yeah, okay, here's the other thing. So people will just try to wiki cap it and be like, oh, man, the last time they fought, it was a split decision. So it was a close and competitive fight. But it actually really wasn't a close and competitive fight. If you look at the numbers, she got outstruck 126 to 86. Mm-hmm. She got outstruck in pretty much every single round, right? She went 0 for 5 on takedown attempts, right? Couldn't take her down. And it was a split decision. 21 of 21 media members scored the fight for Karolina Kowalkiewicz, right? So Chris Lee doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. Yep. Obviously, that happens all the time. Yep. It doesn't change the fact that we've seen this before. So anyways, here's the other interesting thing too, right? With Felice Herrig, that she used to be a kickboxer. That was her thing. Oh, American kickboxer, the little bulldog. She got that kickboxing. But her kickboxing and her striking in general has been absolutely non-existent in the UFC. She cannot win on the basis of her striking. She can win on the basis of some takedowns. She beat Lisa Ellis, takedown. The Kaylee Curran fight, took her down to rear naked, choked her. Alexa Grasso, those 2 takedowns, she backpacked her. Justine Keesh shit herself during that fight. But also Felice Herrig got the 2 takedowns, got the back take, right? Courtney Casey absolutely mauled her in a striking battle, but it's the takedown, right? She lives and dies by the takedown. All of her wins, she needs that takedown. And when she ran into Karolina Kowalkiewicz, that was the problem, is that she couldn't get her down. She shot the takedown. she got stuffed. She went 0 for 5. At the end of the second round, the fight ends up on the ground. Kowalkiewicz immediately just goes for a triangle choke and just sweeps her right into a full mount. Ends the second round with a mounted triangle punching her in the face. She has a much better ground game. She's a better striker. She could stuff all the takedowns. I get she's washed now. The Herrig hasn't done anything really since. I know I mistakenly said earlier Herrig hasn't fought since that fight. She has. She got the fight with Verna. She got the fight with Michelle Waterson. Neither fight she could really get a wrestler going. Neither fight was her striking there. She just kind of doesn't look like the best version of herself. She's 37. She's tried to make the OnlyFans money. She's not looking to fight up-and-comers. She's not looking to fight the Jessica Andrades of the world. She's quietly vanished. But this is an appealing enough fight. 2 aged veterans. She wants to get this one back. It was a split decision, so she probably thinks it was close. Why not run it back? And Karolina's washed enough that maybe it's going to be more competitive. But as far as I'm concerned, if the fight stays standing, Karolina's still a better striker. And I don't know that her takedown defense has gotten any worse. I don't know that Felice Herrig's takedown offense has gotten any better. So if it stays standing, I'm thinking it's going to be for the Polish fighter. If the fight was to ever hit the ground, from what we've seen the last time, it seemed like Karolina probably a step better. And then the last thing for me is Felice does a lot of fitness stuff, right? She's always in incredible shape. Mm-hmm. She does a lot of the fitness modeling. She's got her OnlyFans. She stays in the gym. She does a lot of strength and conditioning. Whereas like Karolina's at American Top Team, and she's not just simply there. She gets like world-class rounds with the A team day in and day out. You check it out. She's just young prospects, savvy veterans, world champions. She trains with the best of the best. I know the results haven't been there, but I think we got a better shot at this one here. So that's what I'm going for. If you look at the Jessica Panay fight, her last one out, she took Jessica Panay down. Mm-hmm. And then got swept and ended up getting armbarred. It was a really bad like ring IQ moment.
Yeah, they both got finished. They both got finished like really quickly in their last time out by superior grapplers.
Yeah, but it was just like, to me, it was a bad decision going to the ground with Panay where you knew where your advantage was. But against Felice, if you take her down, you're not getting armbarred off your back. You're not going to get caught in something. You're not going to get, I don't think, swept. And if you don't take her down, like if you learn from that, I'm just going to sprawl and brawl her, keep it standing. I think she'll just beat her on volume, right? So Give me Karolina Kowalkiewicz, but of course, women's MMA, so you can't have a ton of confidence or a ton of faith that things will work out for you.
No, you can never have too much confidence in that, especially 36 and 37-year-old women's strawweights who are over the hill with 8 consecutive losses combined. The UFC in 2022. Welcome.
Are you ready for the NBA champs to be crowned? Join the finals action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. Looking to turn another small bet into a big payday during the NBA Finals? With DraftKings same-game parlays, you can do just that. This NBA season, a customer placed a $5 same-game parlay and won over $5,000. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, total threes made, total rebounds, and more. And boom, you got a shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code DOP only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Moving on down, we've got Joe Solecki taking on Alex De Silva. Joe Solecki is a minus 170 favorite. De Silva can be had for plus 150. What's your take here, buddy?
Yeah, so this Alex De Silva seems to be sneaky good, I think. He's young. He's very athletic. He moves good. His striking's pretty okay. His wrestling seems fairly top-notch. And maybe he has a cardio issue. That seems to be what's plaguing him. Against Alexander Yakovlev, I thought he won the first round, took him down. No ground and pound. But again, here's a guy that's strong, physical, he's athletic, and he's able to do some pretty good work in the first. In the second round, he keeps trying for the same takedown over and over and over again. And it allows Yakovlev to establish like the front headlock position when he just sprawls him out, snaps the head down, and starts fishing for, called a Schultz choke, right? A Schultz front headlock. And he ends up submitting him with it. But it was for no other reason than De Silva gassed himself out just trying to power through takedowns repeatedly. Against Kazulo Vargas, he does the exact same thing. No ground and pound, but he only needs 3 takedowns. One in the first, one in the second, one in the third. Kazulo Vargas can't get back up. He's not good on ground game. He's not good off his back. So he could kind of get away in that spot. Didn't look terrible. But if you push him, I think that's when the worst of him comes out. And of course, with Brad Riddell, he looked awesome in the first round, Paul. 2 takedowns, controlling a world-class guy like Brad Riddell up against the cage, wins the first round on all the judges' scorecards. In the second round, he's tiring because as athletic as he is, as much muscle as he has, the pace that he's pushing, he just can't keep up with it. So the second you're seeing him start to fatigue, he has moments, but now he's getting beat up. Third round, much of the same. He gets beat up. He does get outstruck by Brad Riddell. A lot of it, what I believe, him fatiguing. But he's still only like 23 years old. Like, I do think that he's going to get a lot better. And I think that style of just, it was 26. Sorry, yeah, my mistake. Still very young, improving. And I think that style of just shooting right through guys, being stronger, more faster, more explosive, a better athlete, and having that wrestling to back it up. If the cardio matches up with it eventually, he'd be a problem. The thing with Joe Solecki is that he's kind of already got all of that stuff right now. He himself is also a good wrestler, but that BJJ black belt, like if this guy takes your back, you're in a whole world of trouble. Puts the body triangle in, you've got nowhere to go. He hasn't fought MMA in 10 months since the Jared Gordon fight, but of course he's been competing in grappling and, went the distance with Gregory Rodriguez, who's a large middleweight. This guy's a 55er. Grappled Donald Cerrone and choked him out in like 3 minutes. His grappling is top notch. It's being able to also fight for 10 minutes, being also to not just be a grappler need be. If you have to strike, you have to strike. But there's elements to his game that I do like. In the Jared Gordon fight, the first round, he mauls Gordon, in the Jim Miller fight, early, takedown, back take, easy. Against Jared Gordon, much of the same. Takedown, back take, early. Gordon is able to extend him, stretch him out, start to fatigue him, start to work him a little bit. And even in the third round, this guy's tired. It's 1-1. Momentum's not on his side. And he knows now, I cannot take Jared Gordon down again. He's too strong for me. He just starts to bite down on his mouthpiece and starts throwing. Did an excellent job. I had Jared Gordon for the upset that night, but it was like very tight, very greasy. And fights like that are only going to help a young fighter. And whereas we say, oh, well, geez, Alex De Silva is only 26. Solecki's only 28. He's a legitimate BJJ black belt. His wrestling, I'm thinking it's similar to De Silva's. Maybe he doesn't have that raw natural strength, but his wrestling is still pretty good. And I think that the cardio, the experience, being able to stretch him into those later rounds, I think that'll start to play dividends. Minus 170 seems like an acceptable price. I don't think anybody's overlooking De Silva at that price, but I think this kid actually does have a promising future, maybe against some other guys. Solecki ready to go right now, and he's just got to use this guy's aggression, this guy's takedown attempts to put the fight exactly where he wants it, which is the grappling. Hit a switch, hit a transition, do something, but I think eventually he finds the back, puts the body triangle in, and just wears on him. And then De Silva tires like he's done in his other fights so far, his losses, I guess I should say, in the UFC. And once he tires, that's when you'll see Solecki at his best. So I'm leaning towards Solecki by decision, but to be honest, Solecki's third round submission, something like that wouldn't surprise me either. Like if you can tire him out, eventually take the back, that rear naked choke will open itself up.
Yeah, I was considering the over 2.5 minus 145 here, but upon further investigation, Solecki's grappling is pretty solid, and if he does get that back, like it's gonna be super sweaty. I mean, if it was like over 2.5 and it was like plus money, maybe I'd be involved, but at minus 145, we're talking about 60% probability. A little bit less inclined. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Damon Jackson taking on Daniel Argueta. Damon Jackson is a minus 575 favorite, biggest favorite on the card, taking on Argueta, who is plus 410. I mean, Damon Jackson last time out against Kowalkiewicz, he made me look real dumb. Like, that was the best performance of his career. Grappling was on point. Absolutely just took Kowalkiewicz completely out of his element, completely controlled him, completely exposed him. I mean, the one loss that we've seen recently against Ilia Topuria, I mean, there's no shame in that. The Mursad Bektic one, we're going back multiple years now. That one was kind of hilarious. I mean, it was the classic Mursad Bektic, stunt where he looks like an absolute world beater. He looks like a champion. Who's holding the belt for him, and then he obviously goes, he absolutely shits his pants, basically. That's just Mursad Bektic being Mursad Bektic. But I mean, I think Damon Jackson's looked really good. Daniel Argueta, he's listed as 8-0, but obviously that's not considering his loss to Ricky Tercios on The Ultimate Fighter, season 29. exhibition bout, so it doesn't really count against his record. He's obviously a 135-pounder. Guy looks super, super jacked, but he's obviously coming in on short notice in this spot. I think Jackson is the rightful favorite. I think he's really been trending up recently. I'm just struggling with this price tag. What's your take here, buddy?
Yeah, I got to go Jackson for sure. I get the price tag, but it's just like he seems to have a lot going well for him. Daniel Argueta fought Diego Silva 28 days ago. Okay, so 28 days ago, you fought another man for 5 rounds, man. And it was a tough fight. He won a split decision. He took some lumps in that fight. I don't know how you're enticed to have a 5-round war, win the LFA title, and then 28 days later, you're moving up a weight class to take on Damon Jackson, who has a plethora of very solid victories. He's coming off a career best win, trains in a great gym at Fortis MMA. Like, it's up a weight class. Like, none of this really makes all that much sense to me. And then, yeah, for the record, like you said, he's 8-0, he's undefeated, but he lost to Ricky Turcios, and that was effectively 1 year ago.
Yeah.
1 year ago, he lost a decision to Ricky Turcios. Has he really improved that much? He's moving up a weight class. He's taking on Damon the Leech Jackson. Like, none of this bodes well for him. So what do we like about his style? Okay. Well, you know what the good thing about it is that he likes to grapple, right? He likes to go out there. He likes to try to establish a takedown, and he's got some decent enough grappling to try to fall back on. I just don't think any of that's going to be usable against Damon Jackson. Like, Damon Jackson's takedown defense, not terrible, but to be honest with you, he's a better grappler. He's got a better submission game. He's got better wrestling. He's got better cardio. He's got infinitely better striking. If this fight stays standing, Damon Jackson's going to do some damage. If the fight hits the ground, it's still Jackson time. Jackson's cardio looks good. Kind of got everything going for him. I'm in the same train of thought as you. Here's a guy that, you know, has been a career guy that you kind of sleep on, and Damon Jackson, har. Like, he's got legitimate skills. He earned that Bektic win because he fished him with 9 guillotine chokes, and the 10th one stuck him, right? He never let go of that neck. He fought the entire way. Kamala Kirk, he beat him in the striking. He took him down effortlessly whenever he wanted, and he absolutely thrashed him on the ground with an excellent BJJ black belt, right? Charles Rosa is a BJJ black belt. He's a bum, but I mean, he just takes him down. He neutralizes him. He's going to be able to do all that stuff. Now, look at his losses, okay? Ilya Topuria, stud. Mavlek Kibulev, the killer, stud. Kevin Aguilar, at the time was the LFA champion, went on to fight in the UFC. Yancy Medeiros, a longtime UFC staple, a guy that fought some really good guys, went over to Bellator and kicked the crap out of a legitimate guy's first time out there, because it's like, you know, Bellator and UFC, there are differences at the end of the day, and apparently Sanchez is just really not that good. But all of his losses, and he's only got 4 of them, they're actually legitimate guys. His wins, 20 of them. He's well-traveled. He's dangerous everywhere, and he's taking on a guy that's undersized, taking the fight on short notice, has just fought a 5-rounder 28 days ago, moving up, whose best skill set is right in the wheelhouse of Damon Jackson. He's the guy to win the fight, right? So unless it's just a fluke and he gets caught, and whatever the case may be, like, this should be his fight to win, and I think he can win in a multitude of ways. So the price seems high because it is MMA, and of course we all know anything can happen. But as far as like styles make fights and the stylistical clash and that nature of things, like, I think it really does play towards Damon Jackson. He's the biggest favorite on the card for that reason.
Yeah, he's got a massive reach advantage. He's not the greatest striker, don't get me wrong, but I mean, yeah, if the other guy's a wrestler, just like, well, Damon Jackson's got the submission to cause problems if they do go down there, and it's really, really hard to try to wrestle somebody who's that much bigger than you. Like, Damon Jackson is a big 145er. Argueta's 5'7". He's built. He's super, super jacked. Don't get me wrong, but he's giving up a ton of size in this fight. So tough spot for him.
This is Damon Jackson's 8th UFC fight, right? Daniel Argueta has 8 pro fights.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a massive experience discrepancy on top of the fact that he seems to have the superior skill set. So it all kind of lines up for me.
All right, we got Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Niklas Stolze. Benoit Saint-Denis is a minus 155 favorite. Stolze can be a half for plus 135. I mean, the love for Benoit Saint-Denis probably comes more from the fact that, like, that Russian ref, Vyacheslav Keshlav, or whatever his name is, basically was willing to let him die that day against Lizu Zaleski dos Santos. Like, my God. I believe I had Zaleski dos Santos inside the distance, and it was one of those fights that you're just like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you had the right side. Lots of refs stop it long before that. The guy took an obscene amount of damage, and props to him. He was able to come out the other side. It was almost he was a Chris Moutinho type of situation. That was his night to survive. I mean, you look at his picture. That beard is definitely hiding what looks like a pretty big chin. I didn't think he looked super, super tough. I'm not so sold on Niklas Stolze. I'm not sure what Benoit Saint-Denis is like when the fight goes to the canvas. That's my only kind of concern here. I could see Stolze having a significant advantage there. I think Benoit Saint-Denis is the rightful favorite, but I don't know. I don't know what to think here, Cody. Talk some sense into it for me.
I'm going to take an underdog shot on Niklas Stolze for no other reason that somebody that has that many defensive liabilities can't be trusted. Like, Saint-Denis' chin was awesome in the sense that he never went down. It was some Ray LaMotta stuff, or some Sugar Ray Leonard versus Jake LaMotta stuff. It was just like, oh, can't knock me down, Ray. He wouldn't go down. Like George Chuvalo. Dude never been knocked down, but he got his ass kicked, right? I think that there's something admirable about it, but at the same time, what do we really know about Benoit, right? Benoit came in with this great wrestling background, right? He was a guy who was training at Bulgarian top team a little bit. He's strong. He's physical. He can get a hold of you. He can take you down, right? He's undefeated. He's a bit of a powerhouse. He goes out there against Zaleski dos Santos. He went 2 for 12 on takedown attempts. His wrestling didn't look that good. The 2 takedowns he did get, he couldn't hold him down. He didn't have no top game. Maybe he's strong. Maybe he's physical. Maybe he can rip you to the ground real quick. But if you're not going to be able to hold the guy down, you're going to have some issues. As far as the striking goes, he was a willing participant. He was willing to come forward and engage and chuck that big right hand. Like, everything that Zaleski dos Santos threw hit him clean in the chin. And like Moutinho, it's like, oh, man, this guy's got a crazy good chin. And then literally the next fight later, he gets knocked down in the very first round by Guido the Cancanetti.
Yep.
Why? Because you can't just walk through punches. It's not a viable game plan. It's not a way for prolonged long-term success. This guy was undefeated. He had fought in relatively low-level competition. He came to the UFC. His striking was problematic, very problematic at the very least. Now, Niklas Stolze doesn't seem very good. I will agree with you there. But I guess there's a couple good, decent enough takeaways is that he seems to be a much faster striker. He's got faster hands. He's got sharper technique. I think he's going to be able to find the mark, and he's going to be able to touch him up a little bit. As far as the ground game goes, his grappling is much better, right? His takedown defense might not be great. I think he could get taken down, but I think even if he does get taken down, Benoit doesn't have the top control to hold him down. Mm-hmm. So Stolze should be able to work his way back up, tire this guy, and then find the money, find the kill shot, hit him, slam him, do whatever you got to do. He leaves a ton of wide openings. So if you're going to give me dog money, I'm honestly am kind of leaning towards it. And Jared Gooden's a very tough guy. I know he got released from the promotion. He looked awesome against Curtis Millender in his subsequent fight in XMMA. The guy's a good fighter, right? Ramazan Emeev fights a very, very difficult game plan to fight. You know, he's just going to smother you up against the cage, get 4 takedowns in that fight. He's a large body for the division. Tough fight. I'm willing to overlook those. Whereas Benoit has the one fight where he absolutely gets wrecked. And then there's not a whole lot else that you can draw from. So both of them seem like they have some unknowns to their game. Both of them don't seem great. Again, this is not a fight that you would really want a whole lot of investment in, but don't really have a whole lot of underdogs to this point. And I think this is a legitimate underdog that does have a chance at pulling the victory off. So give me Niklas Stolze ever so slightly.
Tony Gravely takes on Johnny Munoz Jr. minus 130 Gravely, plus 110 Munoz Jr. What's your take here, bud?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to have some Tony Gravely, but the entire time you're going to be sweating, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be waiting for him to do something stupid. But I think he'll be able to pull it off otherwise and just hopefully not make that mistake. Tony Gravely's a freak athlete. He really is. I mean, the guy comes from a legitimate collegiate wrestling background. He's very explosive. He's a good athletic guy. He's got good boxing. The problem is that he doesn't really pace himself out great. He fights a little too hard, forward pressure, in your face, wants to land those shots. And then the longer the fight goes, he gives his opponents the openings. He starts to fatigue. That athleticism, that fast twitch muscle, explosiveness, it all kind of dies off on him. It all kind of vanishes. So he needs to fight a good, smart game plan, which is something that understandably so he has struggled with in the past. The last fight against Simon Oliveira, you saw him tie it together. Because one fight prior against Nate Maness, he's got him out in the first round. In fact, saved by the bell. Dude gets up, doesn't know where he's at. He broke Maness's jaw. Maness is walking to the wrong corner. Yep. His corner has to like pick him up. This fight's over. They should have waved it off, truth be told. But they don't. And Nate Maness is Kentucky tough. And now you've got a situation where it's like Gravely thought I had him. So he just attacks over aggressively, tires himself out fair. The adjustments from that to the next one against Simon Oliveira, he mined his P's and Q's. He boxed when he needed to. He got the takedowns when he needed to. And against a very talented grappler who had a tricky submission game, he neutralized him and avoided everything. Very clean performance out of him. He fights like that, he'll win. Are they going to be explosive, exciting knockouts? No. You're gonna go get 50 G's for fight of the night? Probably not. But you're going to win. That's the main thing. Go out and win. He fights like that, he'll be okay. Because Johnny Munoz Jr. doesn't have any striking. So it's going to be a big Gravely advantage on the feet. And as far as Johnny Munoz Jr.'s wrestling goes, it's not bad, but it's not as good as Gravely's. So he's not even going to be able to take Gravely down. So where's he going to win this fight? With his grappling. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's got good submissions. If he can grab a hold of Gravely's neck, he can maybe fish for guillotine choke. He can maybe hit a snap down. He can maybe try to work the submission side of things. But you just saw Gravely against Oliveira take him down, pass out of harm's way, and really ground him and neutralize him. And I think that's what we're going to see here against Johnny Munoz. Of course, he's had 2 fights in the UFC. He's tried to put his wrestling on display in both fights. One time it worked, one time it didn't. The Nate Maness fight, a lot of people did think he won that fight. The reason why he likely didn't get the decision is there's no striking out of him. He doesn't land anything. Like, he maybe try to get a hold of you. He's maybe trying to take you down, but the striking's not there. And against Jamie Simmons, yeah, okay, he took Jamie Simmons down and submitted him. Like,
I mean, that's one of the easiest fights they could possibly give you in the entire promotion, in fairness.
For sure. And he goes out and he gets the victory over him. He's a minus 350 favorite, I believe he was. Like, it's the kind of victory you can get behind. But when you look at his record, so his right before he signs with the UFC, he fought Ian King, and then he took 1 full year off and fought Nate Maness. And then he took 1 full year off and fought Jamie Simmons. And now he's taking 10 months off coming to this fight with Tony Gravely. There's not enough substance there. I would rather see what Gravely's doing, which is making mistakes in real time, being able to go back to the drawing board and learn from that. And you can see his progression and his development in real time as a fighter, going from a guy that is prone to making mistakes and screwing up to a guy that's able to tie it all together. Munoz hasn't been able to do that yet. And whereas he may have made improvements over the last 10 months, he doesn't show you a ton of improvements fight to fight prior when he's fighting once a year. So I don't know that I would, be willing to jump right into things. I think Tony Gravely. I think the price makes sense to me, and I think that he can just sprawl and brawl his way to a victory. He can win it standing. He can win it wrestling. He's just got to mind his P's and Q's when he is on top.
I will say, too, this line's kind of interesting. Like, Gravely opened up at, like, minus 150, immediately moved to, like, minus 170. And then as the weeks went on, there has been a bunch of Munoz money coming in. So seems like it's kind of settling now around the numbers, minus 130 plus 110. But something to monitor. You may even get a better price as the week goes along here. There has been some Johnny Munoz Jr. love. Moving on down. We got Jeff Molina taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Minus 180, Jeff Molina. Plus 155, Zhumagulov. I think Molina has shown that, like, this kid really wants it. I mean, they all want it. Don't get me wrong. It's, it's professional MMA. These guys are fighting for, put food on their table and everything like that. But, like, the real massive difference here, the massive disparity that I see for the most part is just the ability to go nuclear on significant strikes. Zhalgas is super, super durable. Jeff Molina, 189 significant strikes, 2 knockdowns against Horichi Lang. The volume seems to be good. I think he's a full-time fighter now, so he's not like working a side gig. The improvements have been made by him. Zhalgas is pretty durable for the most part. Obviously, Manel Kape absolutely beat him out there. But, like, nobody really saw Manel Kape coming out throwing 50 significant strikes, getting a finish in the first round like that. That was just such a wild, wild result. I think Molina's the rightful favorite here. This is definitely a step up in competition, and Zhalgas is definitely no pushover, but I like the progression that I've seen from Molina. So I think he's a rightful favorite. I don't know if I'm going to get there from a betting perspective. What's your take here?
Yeah, I got a bit of an uneasiness about this fight. So I think on one hand, Jeff Molina has a very promising future, very, very bright prospect. He's only 24 years old. He's going to continuously get better. He's got tons of volume, like you said, which is something that you love to see from guys. But being trained by James Krause and team at Glory MMA and Fitness, you do see him maturing. You do see him finding slightly better game plans. And once he ties everything together and he's able to go out there and push the kind of pace that he is capable of doing, yeah, he's going to be a scary guy. Here's the one issue, right? Is he the flavor of the day? Is he the guy that we all like right now because he's been having these crazy fight of the night fights, or is he quite the fighter that we believe him to be just yet? That's what I'm struggling to find out. Against Jacob Silva on the Contender Series, it's a low-level guy, so he wins, not as if he looks tremendous, but a win over Jacob Silva, okay. And then against a Richie Lang had a lot of moments in that fight, Paul. He hit him 111 significant times, did a Richie Lang. And he also took him down 3 times. See, that one in particular doesn't bode well for me because Zhalgas is actually a better striker than Richie Lang and a better wrestler than him. So if that guy's hitting you that much and taking you down, Zhalgas would be able to do both of those things. And then, of course, against Daniel Da Silva is not great. It looks like he's a pretty flashy, dynamic striker for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then he falls apart. You just saw Davidson Figueiredo's brother Francisco knee bar the guy in like a minute. So I don't know that he's all that developed, but as Jeff Molina puts on a really spectacular, entertaining performance, so you're quick to say, this guy's great, he's got volume, he's got this and that. The fact of the matter is that he's fought in some lower level guys in some fun fights, but he's still young, he's still 24, he's still developing, and he's still got a few lessons to learn. Zhalgas, meanwhile, is one of these tough Kazakh fighters who's battle-tested and has fought in a high level of competition before coming to the UFC and now continues to fight one while in the UFC. Again, you look at all of his regional show, he had, I thought it was bullshit that he beat my boy Tagir Ulanbekov, but that's a different story for a different day. But Tagir's a legit guy. Ali Bogatinov is a former UFC title challenger. Tyson Nam, is a guy that's been around. Those are legit wins before you come to the UFC. And then look at his run. Be real about it, right? He get robbed against Rolian Paiva. He outstruck him 66-55 and took him down twice. Anybody that watches that fight usually tends to agree that Zhalgas should have won, but he gets a bad rub. Fair enough. Rolian Paiva's not bad. He loses to Amir Albazi. Amir Albazi looks really good. This kid looks like a legitimate prospect, probably challenge for a title at some point, but looks the part. And then Manal Kopp, it's the same thing. He's a former Ryzen champion. He's unbelievably explosive. He's finally starting to tie his game together and show everybody what he's made of. Yeah, who knows? The guy's just like a species when he's on. And he was on that night. Like you said, 50 significant strikes in 4 minutes. That's very unlike him. And then to knock out Zhalgas, who had previously just been unbelievably cast iron, it was an excellent performance by Manal. Now, if Jeff Molina fought Manal Kopp or Amir Albazi or Rolian Paiva, are you confident that he just walks through those guys? No, those guys are elite. And Jeff Molina's fought the Jacob Silvas of the world. He's fought in the Richie Langs of the world. He's fought in the Daniel Da Silvas of the world. And it's very difficult to now compare those guys to Zhalgas. So what you would like to believe is that Molina is going to have the volume and Molina's going to have this and that. But the reality is he's a bit of a slow starter and Zhalgas might have a bit of a speed advantage. If he presses forward, cuts the ring off, gets his boxing going and tries to take this kid down, he's going to bank up good favor in the judges' scorecards. And it could be enough to eventually just turn the scorecards over on a 29-28. Could be a split. I just think it's going to be a lot more competitive. And as much as I do think Jeff Molina has a bright future, at minus 180 over Zhalgas, they're really confident that this guy is the future. And I don't think we know that yet because he's fought in just limited guys. When Zhalgas fights limited guys, like when he fought Jerome Rivera, he standing guillotine choked the kid unconscious in 2 minutes. That's what he can do against lower level guys. If you want to book Zhalgas versus Jacob Silva or Richie Lang, or his last fight against Daniel Da Silva, I think you would say Zhalgas is a really good looking flyweight prospect. It's who you fight. It's how you look. It's all, a lot of it is narrative. So if I'm looking to maybe, see, that's it, man. If I'm looking to take another shot on like a secondary underdog or another decent underdog, I'm almost tempted to go with Zolga Zumagulov. But I am one of these guys that sometimes does like to believe the hype. And I hear the hype on Jeff Molina loud and clear. And I like it. I like this kid. But we've all been burned before on something like that. You almost do get an uneasy feeling that this could be another situation. So having 100% sure confirm what I want to do with this matchup in particular, leaning towards the dog or shot pat side. When we do the PRP at the end of the show on this one, I'm going to put Zumagulov. I think he's my underdog shot number 2. But yeah, just know what you're getting yourself into, right? It's going to be a close competitive, likely go all 15 minutes, likely go to decision, likely be greasy and closely contested, and then who knows what happens after that.
We got Rinat Fakhretdinov taking on Andreas Michailidis, minus 280 Fakhretdinov, plus 225 Michailidis. Fakhretdinov coming off of a first-round knockout win of Eric Spicely, a former UFC fighter, for those who are new to the game. Michailidis hasn't been entirely impressive by any stretch of the imagination. The line actually kind of makes sense to me. Fakhretdinov hasn't lost since 2014. He looks like a decent prospect. I really struggle with the idea of ever putting any money on Andreas Michailidis. I think that, UFC knows what they're doing here. They're trying to build another Russian guy. And Michailidis is probably one of the lower level guys that they have on the roster. So Fakhretdinov it is. What about you?
Yeah, I would look to probably pass on this one. There's too many red flags on Fakhretdinov. I mean, he's got the OV last name. He's Russian. He's got a nice looking record, 20 wins, 2 losses. So you'd like to get behind him. A couple things. Okay, first of all, not a wrestler. Comes from a Kudo background, which is a hybrid Japanese martial art. Probably the most famous practitioner. He's semi-shilt, although he was like more Dutch style kickboxing anyways. But like, he's not a wrestler. He's not a grappler. He doesn't come from that big, nice background that you'd like where he's grinding guys down. He's also not from the Caucasus. He's not from any of the regions of Russia that you'd like him to be from. He's from Moscow, which is the city. And he's, using his little fancy Kudo martial art. Like he's, you might just have the perception that he's a badass killer Russian, but he's not I know you and me are always on the same page here.
Did you just call Moscow soft? Is that
a city?
No, but you're
it's
just
like
ooh, he's coming from Latida, Moscow. Guy must be like softer than baby.
Yes.
Than baby.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you why, right? I've had this conversation with people, but it's Sochi and Moscow in particular, and St. Petersburg to a lesser extent, but it's the cities. So what happens is you get a lot of, there's money in the city, and there's the nightlife, and there's the clubs, and there's the fashion, and it's city life, right? Whereas the guys that are from Chechnya and Dagestan and Ingushetia, like, what do you think these guys are doing with their time? They're
in Canada. If you went like,
game.
That guy's from Toronto, must be real swanky, real soft. It's just like the guy could be from like Jane and Finch. I know American people are going, what are these guys talking about right now? But like,
yeah, Jane and Finch rough. Okay, we'll look at it this way.
I'm sure Moscow has some back alleys that you don't want to go down.
If you look at Toronto and you're like, okay, let's go back in the day. You're like, oh man, this guy's from Toronto, right? And this guy's from Oshawa. It's like, well, the Oshawa guy might be a member of Satan's Choice, and everybody in Oshawa is kind of blue collar and gritty. And you know what? I bet you a random guy from Oshawa probably beats a random guy from Toronto. Look at it even further. Toronto never produced some great martial artist for Canada, right? They never did. It's a small little area in Quebec produces Georges St. Pierre. The best gym to ever come from Ontario was Journal and MMA with Sean Tompkins in them. It's from London, Ontario. Mark Hominick comes from London. Sam Stout comes from London. Chris Hordecki comes from London. Malcolm Gordon comes from London. Why does London, Ontario have all these UFC fighters, but Toronto doesn't? Well, that's because they're a lot tougher in London, Ontario. You've been in London. It's a tough place. So it's even more so when now you go to the U.S., it'd be the same thing, right? You can fight in New York City, or you can fight out in the burbs in Mark Henry's garage with a real team of killers, New Jersey's good for that. It's like there's a million Russians in the state of New Jersey, right? So these Russian guys like to go to New York and New Jersey to get with their own kind. I don't know. I just got to feel like the more blue collar and redneck you are, the higher chance you have to succeed. I don't know. It's maybe not in the business world, but in the grind, hard work, fight world. And for this guy, Fakhretdinov, I think that he's not the cast iron kind of guy that you would think he is. Now look at his record, okay? 0-0, 0-1, 0-2, 0-0, 0-1, 1-2, 0-1, 2-1, 0-0, 10-8, 1-1. This guy doesn't even have a record. 0-0, 0-0, 1-1, 3-3, 8-4.
Until he fought Alberto Uda, he basically fought absolutely nobody. Yeah.
Cans, Paul. Absolute cans this guy's fought, okay?
Alberto Uda used to be actually pretty good, though.
Well, he was in the UFC, and to be honest, I mean, he almost beat the absolute crap out of, what's his name? Anthony Smith. Remember that fight? Like, holy crap. But anyways, yeah, Uda's not – oh, sorry, it wasn't Uda that was there. It doesn't matter. Uda lost, I guess it says Jake Collier, Marvin Vettori. He went 0-2 in the UFC. He got released, and then he's just been hanging around. When he goes to different places to fight different guys, he loses. Fakhretdinov, that would be his marquee victory. Then they have this UAE Warriors 15 and EFC 32, right? So it's in Abu Dhabi, and Khabib runs the EFC side of it. So they do a cross-promoted event, and Dana is down in Abu Dhabi because they were having a Fight Island show, invited by Khabib's guests. It says, you know what, let's make it a looking for a fight. So they made it a looking for a fight, and Eric Spicely's on the show, who's a UFC veteran. He comes out, and he gets clipped early by Fakhretdinov, who gets the knockout in 55 seconds, gets real excited, and Dana gives him a contract. So
Spicely's been iced since that loss. He's been iced by absolutely, the last guy he has lost to was 5-4. Zdeněk,
and he got knocked out
Polivica. So Spicely,
in a minute 22.
Spicely was always very, very one-dimensional. He's a submission or bust guy, but he looks like just straight up busted at this point. So yeah, upon further investigation, it's not very impressive whatsoever to be paying close to minus 300 on Renat.
Yeah, the other sad thing too that I thought was Eric Spicely, right? He lost his fight to Duran Win. They booked him against Brandon Allen, and he pulled out. They booked him against Roman Kopylov. The event got canceled. They booked him against Marcus Perez. It says failed weight cut, and then he's released. And that's why he now is on a 3-fight losing streak, all 3 by knockout, not looking good. But if you look at Eric Spicely, it was he's on antidepressants, right? And he had switched medication, and it screwed up his weight cut. And then the UFC releases him because they're like, we don't really want. He's damaged goods. He's taken a lot of damage. He's had some bad losses. He's on antidepressants. His head's not in it. It's causing weight issues. This is not the kind of guy you want on your roster losing these knockout losses for you. It hasn't had a good run. That is the biggest win of Fakhretdinov's career. He's got 20 victories, 18 absolute cans, and 2 UFC veterans who have seen better days. It's very difficult to now get super excited about that guy and say, here's a legitimate prospect. He's not the wrestler we want him to be. He's not that cast iron greedy Russian that you want him to be. He's not fighting top level guys for the most part. He's listed as 30 years old. He's been fighting professionally for I think its debuts in 2012. I was looking at Udo for a second. 2013, okay? 2013, he makes his pro debut, and now he's 9 years into his career. So I guess they say he debuted around 20 or 21. Here's another red flag for you. If you look at his amateur career, he fought amateur between 2015 and 2018. And yet in 2015, he would have been 10-2 in MMA, 9-2 in MMA in 2015, which means he went to 9-2 in MMA and then fought a whole bunch of local amateur stuff and then came back to smash some more cans and then falls into the UFC. Again, what it is a trap. And so Michailidis is not very good, right? We can all laugh at him. We can all say that. But let's just give him a quick pass here real quick, right? So his last fight against Alex Pereira, he probably won the first round holding him up against the cage and then got knocked out in the second. But here's a real kicker for you, right? He fought Alex Pereira, who's a giant boy, at 185 pounds. He fought KB Bular, who's 6'5", at 185 pounds. He fought Modesta Bukauskas at 205 pounds. He's fighting Farkat at 170. It's his 170-pound debut. So maybe this is where he should have been all along.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe he's going to be big and strong at 170. He used to fight at 205. He fought the guy that knocked out Israel Adesanya competitively for a round at 185. Now he's at 170. watch weigh-ins, see what he looks like,
He could be
and just know that Farkadinov's not very good. So, yeah, honestly, this one to me is a dogger pass. I think I'm going to take Andreas Michailidis for no other reason than the scary Russian dude who's 280 is in fact not a scary Russian dude, and he's 280. Price seems too wide. That'll be the PRP pick is Michailidis.
You make a very, very compelling point. I'll be checking out the weigh-ins there, but yeah, coming down to I believe it's at 170. That's what it's listed on Tapology. It's listed on UFC stats as well. It seems to be a welterweight contest. So very, very, yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. I'm going to look at Andreas Michailidis at weigh-ins this week. He should be super in shape if he's making 170 pounds. Good point.
Pretty big.
He should be pretty big. All right, and finally, we got Aaron Blanchfield taking on J.J. Aldrich, minus 475. Blanchfield, plus 350. Aldrich hasn't really been taken down all that much. If you go through most of her most recent fights, like ever since, her UFC debut, she got taken down like 4 times. But it's like people are legitimately struggling to take her down. Jillian Robertson, last time out, was able to take her down once. But JJ showed a lot of you can tell she's been putting in the work with a pretty good team. And I think this line is a bit wild, but I am pretty sold on Blanchfield. I think her forward pressure, her grappling, she will be able to get this fight to the mat. The bet that I did make this week was, the bet that I had already made before we started this show, was Blanchfield by decision minus 138. I just think JJ is super, super tough. She only gets finished by some of the best fighters in the division. Blanchfield should be able to secure takedowns. She's young, getting better every single fight. If this fight stays on the feet, JJ's probably got a slight edge there, but I just think that it's at least relatively competitive on the feet, and on the ground, Blanchfield should do what Blanchfield does, which is just take you down and just move positions, grind you out, and probably win a convincing decision. So, yeah, getting a minus 475 down to minus 138 in women's MMA against Aldrich, who's super, super durable. Seemed like don't even overthink it and just bet Blanchfield by decision. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I think Aaron Blanchfield, who I like to call Aaron Blanchimov, is more Russian than this Farkadinov, my friend. She fights the proper game plan. She is rugged. She is just absolutely on the point, grinds you down. She can strike, but a lot of the time she'll use that striking to set up that takedown. Relentless with her pressure, rinse and repeat over and over. She seemed like she was going to be a real special talent when she was fighting for Invicta because she's like 18 years old and she looks quite good. Now you're seeing her just develop from fight to fight. I think she's 24 now and just sky's the limit for her. People think that Miranda Maverick is a legitimate prospect. Yeah. And you see this much younger, already more refined prospect probably beats her 9 out of 10 times currently and is only going to be getting better and better as time goes on. So is women's MMA minus 475 as a price tag is definitely a little bit too deep for anybody's liking, but Blanchfield seems to be the real deal. JJ Aldrich, talented as she is, you mentioned she doesn't really get taken down. The girls that she's fought are Cheng Ming Jian, can't wrestle. Yeah. Danielle Taylor, absolutely cannot wrestle. Poliana Viana, I'm going to tell you, firsthand experience, cannot wrestle. Macy Barber, I would say can wrestle, but important to note, shot 0 takedowns in that fight. Laura Mueller can't wrestle. Sabina Mazo, sure as shit, cannot wrestle. Courtney Casey absolutely cannot wrestle. Vanessa Demopoulos, the worst of all the people I just named in the wrestling department. And then Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson can wrestle. Here's her issue is that she's real tentative with her hands. She doesn't really want to engage in the pocket. She won't set up her strikes in order to get down that level change. She just kind of becomes plodding forward, telegraphs a shot, shoots. She did get one over JJ Aldrich, but obviously not enough. JJ fought an excellent game plan, kept it standing, picked her off from the outside. Blanchfield, meanwhile, does throw in combinations. She comes forward, she'll let her hands go, and I think by throwing those strikes, by mixing up some volume, it's going to cause JJ Aldrich to then have to react to the strikes. You need to defend. As you are now engaging her in a striking affair, that's when she's going to shoot under and get the takedown. That's something that Jillian Robertson does not do but something that Erin Blanchfield excels at. So again, I just think she's getting better and better. And I know that with JJ Aldrich, it's like, ooh, you know, she's training with some great fighters and Rose Namajunas. She brought in random Maverick, and now she's wrestling hard every day. And, you know, if Maverick's showing you a thing or two, it's like, well, Erin Blanchfield just physically taught her a private one-on-one lesson, you know,
exactly.
I would say you're probably in a little bit of trouble here. So Aldrich, you know, she's always been my baby, and she's been real good at going in and cashing tickets when we needed her to. 3-fight winning streak, you know, 1-4 over the last 5 fights, all good stuff. But yeah, I'm a Blanchfield supporter through and through, and that doesn't start. I'm not going to start down her in this fight.
Sounds like we're on the same page. All right. So yeah, all I've got on this card so far, obviously at Paul Shag on Twitter, I'll drop my final card on Saturday afternoon. But I've got Blanchfield by decision -138, and I'm going to add Movsar by decision like -150, which is available to me right now. Without further ado, Cody, hit him with the PRP.
I'm going to go Volkov. If you want to get greasy, you're going to chase that by decision. Evloev, like you said, by decision. I'm going to go with Trizano by decision. Karine Silva, likely by decision. Hode Osbourne, likely by decision. Alonzo Menifield by a first-round wreck job. Maybe a second-round wreck job. Under 1.5 in either scenario. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, I think she's going to get another decision. Joe Solecki, I think he might be able to get like a third-round submission, but kind of leaning towards decision. Damon Jackson, if he fights the way he fought last time, this thing ain't going the distance. I got a feeling it ain't going the distance, but Argueta has never been finished, so you kind of give him somewhat of a benefit of the doubt. Stolze is going to be dog number 1. Tony Gravely. Zalga Zumagulov is going to be dog number 2. Andreas Michailidis is going to be dog number 3. Erin Blanchfield by decision. So 3 underdogs out of 14 fights. Probably going to be a few more than that, but at least try to keep the stuff that I'm just not confident with at the bottom and go with what we do like at the top. What does that shake out to? I don't know. Always nice to see the weigh-ins. But the stuff that does seem to be reasonable would be Movsar Evloev. I like Karine Silva, especially at that even money that you could get from her. Alonzo Menifield. Don't mind Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Don't mind Joe Solecki, Damon Jackson, Tony Gravely. Zumagulov as a dog shot. And Blanchfield, right? So again, you can pare it down to 7 or 8 fights that you do like and then avoid the rest. But of course, you know, I mean, I like to shoot my shot at the PRPs. So
you shoot your
I will
shot.
have them up. Yeah. It's what I do, right? Little risk, big reward, right? You may lose a little bit every single event, and then when you do hit one, hopefully it's all made worthwhile. And that's, as always, what I'm going to accomplish, my man.
The kid is due. The kid is due.
Yes, that's right.
The summer of PRPs. I feel like it's coming in the next 10 weeks here. Hopefully it's this week. Anyway, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy, saying goodbye and good luck.